Welcome to the Practice Squad podcast, episode 22. My name is Jon. I'm joined by my co-host Mark. We took a couple weeks off for the holidays, so we got a lot to talk about today. But the first thing that I kind of want to cover, just because we're 24 hours removed from it happening, is the Damar Hamlin situation. As of last I checked, which we're recording this right now on Tuesday night about 9:30 at night, he has been reduced from 100% oxygen support to 50% oxygen support and is obviously still alive, thank God. So we're hoping that we see continuous improvement on that situation. He's obviously in our thoughts and prayers, but super scary, surreal situation. I turned my eyes away, from the game for probably about 5-10 seconds, and I look back and there's an ambulance on the field, and I'm like, oh God, something must have happened for that to be out that quickly. Pretty crazy, just seeing the players, reactions and emotions. And I'm happy that they, made the very wise decision to, kind of postpone and cancel the game in that moment. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Had a lot of different thoughts when I was watching the game as well. And, the first thing that you obviously hope for is that he ends up being okay. Which, it sounds like he's on the right track, but you just never know for sure until you know. So I think absolutely the right move to postpone the game for a different date. There's just no way that those guys can possibly play a game with his health, his life in jeopardy, right? You don't know what's going to happen, and those as a teammate, right? Like, I mean, you and I were teammates. You become brothers with those guys. You spend so much time with those guys, and it really does become like a family environment in most locker rooms. And when you see something like that happening to one of your brothers, there is nothing that prepares you for that moment. And you sure as hell aren't ready to go play a football game when his life is in jeopardy. You don't know what's going to happen. So the NFL made the right choice. I posted a TikTok about it, John, and I do want to hold the NFL accountable, because I don't think that the NFL really made this call. I think that the coaches and the players made this call themselves. I think that there was a second where they were going to try to play the game, and I think that the players just chose to not warm up. And I think the coaches took one look around and just had a feel for their guys and said, this is not right, you know? And I think
Yeah.
that they made the call and it was the right call, and went to the locker rooms, and it took them over an hour to officially postpone the game to a different date. And I just think that that's BS. I think that if that doesn't show you how the NFL truly treats and cares about its players, I don't know what does. Um, it instantly made me draw examples from, even the college level. I mean, we talk about it all the time. The purest form of football is youth football through high school football. It's the best to watch, best to be a part of, best to coach. It truly is. You play it for all the right reasons. The second you get into Division I football and up, it
It's
becomes about
politics.
money and
Yeah.
politics. And I mean, I'll give you an example, John. There's several times during practice, my teammates would either, someone would roll up on an offensive lineman's knee, and you could tell that, they're grimacing in pain, rolling around. You could tell they have a torn ACL or something very serious, and that they're probably going to miss a significant amount of time. And they just move the ball 10 yards north or 10 yards south and just continue practice. And as they're still evaluating the guy on the ground, he's yelling in pain. I'm lining up at receiver, and I look behind me, and my teammate, someone who I consider my friend, is getting checked for a torn ACL. And I know he's probably going to be seriously affected by that mentally and physically for the next year. There were times we had dudes have neck injuries in practice. And it's not just at CMU, and I'm not trying to bash CMU. I think this happens at pretty much as a standard from Division I through professional. The practice time is so important that when someone goes down, they just move the drill to where you're not going to get trampled on, and they continue practice. It's like nobody cares. There was
Yeah.
a
I
time that
mean,
I had a head injury, dude, and the same thing happened. I mean, I like blacked out from a hit, and I got up, and like the whistle was still blunt. Practice was still going on. They just moved it like 10 yards away. I mean, it just kind of is sad that it's gotten to that point. Obviously, I'm not trying to speak for every program out there, but I think from a lot of, college athletes will say the same. A lot of NFL guys will say the same, that it's sad how they kind of, you as a player, once you're at that level, you're almost just treated as like a part of a business, and they don't really care about you on a personal level. And I just hope that that changes, and I hope that that's recognized. And a lot of guys were speaking out about that, um, over the course of last night. And it's sad that that's the lesson that comes from this. And but it just shows, and the NFL needs to do better for sure.
yeah, I mean, we shed some light on kind of some of those systemic issues on our, athlete mental health episode where, we had three guys, two from the same program, and then obviously one of your teammates kind of discussed like, just the absolute grind it is to get any, recognition or opportunities in the first place. But even when you get those opportunities, like you're still just a number at the end of the day, and you're incredibly replaceable, and it's all just one big competitive system. Where yeah, there's politics and there's money involved. And I'm sure that it was not a light decision by the NFL for those exact reasons. I mean, it probably cost them millions of dollars to, cancel a Monday Night Football primetime broadcast. And hats off to Taylor and McDermott for, I think, mutually making that decision out of consideration.
I think it was
for their
more. I
players
think
to
it was
do that.
more their call. Yeah, I really do. I think it was more their call and the players' call. And really, there was nothing to think about. I mean, it was a pretty clear from the second that he was taken on an ambulance and that they were doing CPR on him that this is a matter of life or death. And the second that that becomes a thing, I mean, that's foreign territory for everybody there. I mean, that you don't see that happen in football on any level. I think in the history of the game that I know, I mean, I talked to my dad about it. I guess there's only been one player that he can recall dying on the field in his entire existence of coaching, playing, and watching football. And it was actually Detroit Lion. I don't know if you've heard about, I think his last name was Hughes. He died. He had a cardiac incident due to a blood clot. This was like 50 years ago. And it was in Tiger Stadium back when they played in Tiger Stadium. And he died on the field. That's the only thing he could possibly think of that came remotely close to this. So this is new. I mean, the fact that it was handled so well by the medical staff and by the teams and by the fans and by most of the world watching is, I think that's something worth noting. But
The speed at which that medical staff reacted more than likely did save his life. So, the condition that they're all attributing to, and which we don't know anything. I am not a doctor, and we don't know for sure that this is what happened. But from medical professionals that I've seen speculate on this, what they think happened is that he was hit in the heart at just the right time during his heart's rhythm to actually upset the rhythm and force him into cardiac arrest. And apparently, a decade ago, the survival rate for this was like 30-ish%, and now it's closer to 60%, thankfully. And that's literally just because our medical staffs have become, so good at reacting to these situations. Because had they not, 9 minutes without your own oxygen, or you need CPR for that entire time, it's so serious, right? I mean, incredibly serious. Your brain's not getting the oxygen it needs. So, yeah, crazy situation. We're very, very happy to hear that he's at least improving. He's, from what it sounds like, he's not out of the woods yet, and he's still in very serious condition. But at the very least, he is still alive. And, it's amazing to watch the football community kind of rally around this situation. I think everybody was on the same page about their opinion on the game. And also, I think his fundraiser that he is doing for a toy drive is like crossed over $5 million. So just the outpouring of community support, and all these people that are obviously concerned for him and his health and his family. It is you want to take some positive out of these situations. It is kind of a breath of fresh air to see everybody kind of rally around that. So
for sure, I think the vast majority of people were thinking and praying and hoping for the same thing, and handled the situation properly. And I think that that's something to know. I think it really did, like you said, bring anyone who's in the football family, anyone who cares, watches, likes football, kind of brought everybody together, and just makes you realize that there's always going to be bigger things than football. And this player's life is obviously so much bigger, and he's so much more than just what you watch him play on Monday, Thursday, or Sunday. He's a person. He has a family. He's so much more than just the athlete. And I think that that is being shown, at least from what I've seen in media and people talking about him. And I think that that is the true story, along with obviously the hopes that he pulls through and makes a recovery. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I guess so we're gonna hop into some college football stuff from there, and then get back into NFL. Try to get through the rest of this episode. I know emotions are weighing heavy for a lot of people. A lot of the legacy broadcasters today kind of struggled to kind of get through their daily routines and talk about other topics. But we got about 2 weeks worth of football we got to cover today. So first of all, obviously as a Michigan fan, right, that TCU loss was brutal. And look, we can boil it down to officiating to some degree, but at the end of the day, Michigan totally beat themselves, right? They had 3 turnovers. That's absolutely inexcusable on that stage. And Harbaugh's Michigan team, Harbaugh's offense prides itself on being a very clean team in all three phases of the ball, and time of possession and having a dominant, like gruelingly slow, exhausting run game to deal with is that team's identity. And as soon as you start turning over the ball and making mistakes, that identity goes right out the window, right? You cannot be that Michigan team and play like that and expect to be the winner. So really unfortunate. It was a super sloppy game. I wish that they came out a little bit more prepared. Part of me is just frustrated. Like these teams, man, they take a month off between the end of the season and the playoff game, and there's so much time for you to fall off routine. For you to miss some details. To the point that when you come back, you're just rusty and you're potentially not the same team. And I think that's what we saw with that Michigan team, and TCU absolutely took advantage of it. So congrats to them. And curious to see how it pans out, against Georgia in the national championship here.
Yeah, John, you're totally hit it right on the nail, dude. They were the better team. I think Michigan, like I said, definitely the better team from a roster standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, from really every kind of aspect that you look at. But were they the more prepared team for that game? No, right? And how you prepare, clearly there's an issue with how Harbaugh is preparing his teams for bowl games. He does not have a great track record, and I've said it before on this podcast. There were times where we had bowl games at Central and we would get time off. And no matter what you do when you're home, whether you're running routes on your own, whether you're, working out, like it's just not the same as practicing in season practices with your team and with your coaches and in meetings. And, once you leave that in season mode and then try to dive back into it for a huge game, like a playoff game, the better prepared team is typically going to win. And TCU from the get go obviously was just better prepared, right? It seemed like they were in better shape. It seemed like they were more mentally locked in. You saw a lot of mental errors from Michigan early on both sides of the ball, especially that first drive, right? They have a huge play. Donovan Edwards breaks free. Everyone's thinking, okay, this is how it's going to go. This is what we thought was going to happen. And then they don't get any points out of it because of mental errors, right? And you can blame play calling and stuff like that. They just didn't execute. They did not execute. They turned the ball over. They made uncharacteristic mistakes, as you've noted, and they got beat, right? TCU came ready, more prepared. I think you have to give credit to TCU's defense, who stepped up big time, not known for their defense at all year. Have had kind of a shaky defense, actually, most of the season. And they stepped up big time. I think that Max Duggan made some incredible plays under pressure. I mean, there was a couple times Michigan brought a zero blitz, which means you basically, for those who don't know, you're bringing pressure and you're playing cover zero behind it, which is just man-to-man, one-on-one coverage. And Max just kept backpedaling, and getting the ball out as he took a hit and delivering it accurately. And it's really hard to guard in single coverage. You're really banking on that pressure getting home. And Max didn't allow them to get home, didn't allow him to sack him, got the ball up just in time, knowing he was going to get hit, showing that Iron Man characteristic that I talked about before the game. And he made enough plays to get it done. And I think just what a great team win for TCU. That was I think a huge upset. I think that nobody really had them beating Michigan. I mean, some people probably thought it'd be closer than people were picking, but no, I didn't think that they would go out and actually win.
Yeah, I had a really bad feeling from that first drive, right, where you see that huge gain. I'm like, okay, sweet. There's our run offense that's obviously going, and then it just stall out in the red zone, which you do not see that Michigan team do very often. And like just a loss of confidence in your identity, right? Like I know you said it's execution, not play calling, but to not trust your offensive line to make the blocks to go 2 yards there, that's tough, man. Like
and you saw
the
that
fancy
leak
stuff
in.
confused me.
You saw that leak into the rest of the game, John, as you said, right? The second you lose a sense of, wait, we're a smash mouth team that's going to push everybody around, and they stuff you one time on the goal line, you saw how it affected their play calling every other time they got close. I mean, they struggled to score and move and get third and fourth down and short conversions the whole game. And that's not Michigan. Michigan, if you get a 4th and 1, you're thinking you got this easy because that's what you're built to do. You get on the goal line, right? Roman Wilson gets called on the goal line. No big deal. Next play, you should punch it in. Right?
Yeah,
you should punch
exactly.
it in. Fumbling a handoff exchange. I mean, that's just a sign of rust and not practicing. And you didn't see Michigan do that all season long. That wasn't a common thing. And it seemed like every time they got down there and the defense tightened up, Michigan, instead of doing what they've done all year and push people around and score, they couldn't find a way to move the ball. They turned the ball over. I mean, you could blame refs all you want. I'm not a part of that game. The refs weren't great, but Michigan
No,
lost this game fair and square. I
I
mean,
was
they
about to
turned the
say
ball
they
over and
weren't, but the refs didn't throw 2 interceptions, right? And the refs
no,
didn't
and
fumble the ball at the goal line. So it's definitely rough. And then moving on to that, look, Mark, hats off to you for kind of, I think, bringing the relevant talking points into both of these games prior to them happening. I mean, I think you really kind of hit the nail on the head when it came to how Ohio State played Georgia, right? And if it wasn't for a really bad kick, Ohio State would be heading to the national championship right now. I mean, it was a close, exciting game, pretty much the entire time, the entire 60 minutes. So that was crazy, and I think that TCU probably is not going to fare as well, especially against that Georgia defense. I think OSU was the team that could potentially pick them apart, and I think they did a good job of that, and they just came a little short.
we said it for weeks, John, right? I mean, you heard me say it on the episode. I posted on our social medias. The team that matches up best with Georgia in the playoff is Ohio State, right? Before they even announced the playoffs, I said Georgia does not want to get Ohio State in this first round. They'd much rather play TCU or honestly play Michigan. They don't match up well with Ohio State. And we saw that. I mean, they gave up 41 points. That you don't see Georgia teams giving up 40 plus points. CJ Stroud picked him apart. Marvin Harrison was an issue in space. They tried to play a man to man. They tried to do this, a couple different things in the secondary, but ultimately CJ Stroud was able to kind of buy himself enough time and find his open receivers. And there's really no one in the country that can consistently cover Ohio State's receivers. And if you don't sack CJ Stroud, he's going to eventually find him in most games. And that's exactly what happened. And, barring some injuries and a missed field goal, Ohio State's probably winning the national championship because I don't know how well TCU would match up with them. So how crazy that would have been in a year for Michigan fans where you had everything. And not only do you not even get a chance to beat Ohio State again, you lose to a TCU team who then goes and loses to Ohio State. That would have been crazy. That would have been crazy. And if I don't care what team you're a fan of,
Personally, I'm kind of relieved to avoid that outcome for sure. And I'm sure this Michigan team, look, they have a guy at quarterback now, which I think has been kind of the problem for Harbaugh Michigan teams is they haven't had a consistent guy at quarterback. I am excited as hell for next year because I think that run game's gonna remain just as strong, if not stronger, next year. They have young receivers that I think got a lot of good reps in this year. I mean, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, you have a lot to look forward to if you're a Michigan fan. And the last thing I'll say too, and we'll get into this more as the week goes on, but obviously Georgia and TCU, little preview of that matchup. Like you hinted at, I think that this is not the same matchup as TCU against Michigan, right? I think Georgia got their rust out of the way without having to lose a game. And I think that they got a little bit of a humbling call against Ohio State. And I don't think that they're going to take TCU very lightly. And TCU got,
and I think defensively they have
it's going to
an
be
unreal advantage. So
it's going to be tough for TCU to even compete in that game. I'll be honest.
No, last question for you here too, because I do want your opinion on this. But both games had, and look, I don't love the way that we review targeting. I don't love how we go about it at the college level, especially. But both games had what I would consider a pretty clear definition of targeting by the way that it's currently officiated. The Michigan game and the Ohio State, I think both players, lowering the crown of your helmet, head to head contact, like that, those checked out on both of those hits. And I think that they both potentially could have altered, the outcome of both of those games. So I'm curious what your take is on that. And look, my opinion is, and I said this about, the reps in the NFL a couple of weeks ago too. For whatever reason, when the game's on the line and the calls can really swing the game one way or another, the refs are afraid to throw the flag even when it's obvious and blatant. And like in the earlier parts of the game, you'll get like really silly calls that didn't need to happen and seem like reaches. And then towards the end of the game, the last couple of minutes, you get very obvious calls that potentially don't happen. So I'm just curious on your take on that, and if you think the refs were in the right by not calling either of those hits targeting.
Yeah, I think that the Marvin Harrison hit that you're referring to in the Ohio State game, I think was more obvious. I think that was the easier call that was not called. But I hate the way that it's set up, John, because it's such an opinion for the refs, and it changes in every single game. You never know. I mean, the rules are written pretty clearly of how you're supposed to call it, and it never is black or white. It never is a very clear answer. There's always going to be a gray area that we're talking about it right now. I just hate the way it's set up, and it's such a huge thing, like you said, in college, because you call targeting and that player's out of the game. It's so
Right.
much different than the NFL, where if you miss a call, whatever, now you're just missing the yards. You take a starter out of a college team, you're really affecting that team. So I think when in doubt, probably don't call the targeting. But I don't know. It's so hard, and I don't even know what to think of it anymore. The game is just it's getting ruined by it. Honestly, I'm all for protecting the players, but there's so many times where you see targeting calls that aren't targeting, and you get this player removed from a game. I mean, that they play their whole life to play in, and for one, and it's so much of the time these are accidental hits that just happen so fast that you just where a receiver might be shorter than a secondary player, and he hits you in the head because, well, he's shorter than you. And it's hard to get lower than somebody that's shorter than you, or whatever. There's all kinds of reasons that it happens, but most of the time it's not with ill intent. And I just think that it's a stupid rule. The way that they call it is dumb, and it's affecting college football negatively for sure, and it's making it harder on the reps to make the right call,
I
because
agree,
of
and
that.
I don't think the outcome of either game should be tilted by a call like that.
Yeah,
Um, so but at the same time, like those both look like the clear definition of what targeting is. So that's the thing, is it puts the ref in a tough situation, because it's like, okay, you're supposed to call this consistently, but also you know as well as anybody else does that this could seriously affect the winner of this game, and they probably don't deserve it, right? Michigan sure as heck did not deserve another chance on that fourth down. And
no,
regardless of the fact that I think that call counts as targeting, like that, they did nothing to earn another chance on that. So
yeah.
it's definitely wild stuff.
John, I'm curious to see your thoughts on the could staying in there in the college football talk, but also kind of gives us a way to get into the NFL talk. Harbaugh, he did the same stuff last year, where it seemed like there was these rumors flying around. If the right job in the NFL opened up and he got the offer, he would take it, right? He ends up staying and has the year that they had, which is a lot to be proud of for Michigan. Same stuff's happening already, within days of losing to TCU. The same conversations are starting to happen. To me, I just think it's the dumbest thing ever. I'm curious to see what you say, but to me, it's like, if you're Jim Harbaugh and these rumors are flying around, and that he knows these rumors are flying around, it is as simple as a one press conference, one tweet, one post to say, I am not entertaining these ideas. I'm committed to Michigan, to save your recruiting class, to save all your players. I don't really know what the deal is there, but why he's hesitant kind of makes me think this is a legitimate rumor.
Well, so what I clearly remember from last year is that Harbaugh took an interview with the Vikings, and then Harbaugh came back and said, I don't plan on doing these shenanigans every single year, right? And then I liked a tweet earlier today that I'm trying to find, but from what I remember, Harbaugh said pretty much verbatim, like, I look forward to coaching, this Michigan team in 2023, right? And so if that's what he actually said, and I'm sorry that I can't find the quote like right off the tip of my fingers right now, but if that's actually what he said, then I don't understand why these rumors are circulating. Is it because the Colts are like doing everything they can to try to court him? Well, that's not his fault, right? I mean,
Yeah, I
so
mean,
it's interesting. Look, when there's millions of dollars that gets involved and all of those other things, I get that, like, it adds a lot of gray to the situation, and that nobody's words in that moment like totally matter as much. So I'm sure these rumors are going to circulate. But right now, I'm of the opinion that I don't think Harbaugh currently plans on taking an NFL job, and I don't think he will probably consider doing that until he wins a national championship with Michigan or he retires. Like, I think those two outcomes are more likely than him going back to the NFL for the time being. That might
yeah.
change, but that's what I think is the most likely outcome, in my opinion, is that he is back coaching Michigan next year. And I think all of the hearsay and rumors are exactly that, rumors. So
I would agree with you. I just don't know why, if they are such rumors, why he doesn't make a very, very strong statement saying, for now, I'm not leaving. I'm here. I'm committed to 2023 and this team. Because it's you put the risk of losing recruits, of having guys transfer, all that stuff becomes an issue. Uh, if I were the head coach and there was rumors, I didn't want to leave or wasn't going to entertain the idea of leaving, I would make it damn clear that I'm not leaving this year. I wouldn't say forever. I wouldn't say I'm stuck at Michigan forever. I would say 2023, I will be your coach, and we
And
will go and
like
try to win a
again,
national championship.
from what I understand, I think that's exactly what he said at one point in the past week or two. Like I think that is like those words came out of his mouth. And obviously he could always come out and make a stronger statement, but at the same time, if you're getting calls for somebody to pay you tens of millions of dollars to come coach your football
Right.
team, I'm sure you're at least going to take the damn call. So
Exactly, which is why I think that's why he's not coming out with a strong statement, because I think he is entertaining the idea. I don't think he's leaning towards leaving, but he's definitely keeping his phone ready and taking calls and hearing out what people are offering to pay him. And I don't
well,
think that he's untouchable right now. I think that
I
someone, if
don't
they wanted him
disagree
bad
with
enough,
you, but wouldn't that be anybody, right? Like, I
I
mean,
guess. But there's some guys. I mean, I don't know. There's some guys that are pretty locked into where they're at, and does he? How much more money does he really need? Michigan pays him pretty well. He's an alumni of the school. He's had success there. He seems pretty well liked. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think it will
Obviously,
boil down completely to payment too. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it. So, look,
yeah.
we can sit here and speculate. I'm sure there will be plenty more speculation about this on future podcast episodes. But yeah, personally, I think it is much more likely than not that he is coaching Michigan next year. Moving into the NFL, so slightly different format because we took a week off, but we are still going to essentially just recap last week's games like we usually do and kind of look forward ahead to week 18. There might be some tidbits from, the Christmas weekend that are worth covering. I'll take a quick glance at some of the games right now and see if that's the case. But for the most part, we're just going to kind of be business as usual to the best of our abilities. And, we're kind of to some degree covering ground from the past 2 weeks. So let me share my screen here and we'll get moving on that. So first games first, Cowboys versus Titans. And look, I don't know what happened to this Titans team. I mean, I get they're missing their starting quarterback, but like 7-9 from a Vrabel team is crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, well, John, and this game is like, it's worthless to even look at because they didn't play their best guys. Because they're kind of in an all-in situation next week. It's a win to get in with Jacksonville, so
right.
they knew that going into it, and I think Derrick Henry didn't. A lot of guys didn't play that probably normally would play, and I know I hate that when it gets to this point in the season that kind of happens in some situations. It sucks. As fans, it sucks, but it is what it is, right? Like they went out, they competed with what they put out there, and it obviously wasn't enough to compete with Dallas.
Well, would it be out of line to suggest that I'm not feeling too great about their odds next week against Jacksonville?
I would say
either?
that they're gonna. I would say they're actually probably underdogs to try to beat Jacksonville. Jacksonville is one of the hottest teams in football. Trevor Lawrence is one of the hottest quarterbacks in football. Their defense has gotten better all year. I would not want to play the Jaguars right now.
I sure
Not
as
one
hell
bit.
wouldn't either. So I don't know, man. It just feels to me that this season, and I know they fired their GM and all that stuff, but the Titans just kind of lost their identity this season, and
Yeah.
we'll be, I don't want to overreact here, but I'm definitely curious to see how Vrabel responds in the offseason and how he potentially jibes with the new GM. So,
John,
really interesting situation.
what are your thoughts on Dallas potentially can compete and win the division now?
Oh man,
I've been saying that all year. I don't know how much. I know Jalen Hurts has been out, but talk about falling apart here. I mean, the Saints are not a very good team to lose to them.
Yeah, but look, I gotta say this much. I'm still getting the exact same vibes that I get about Dallas every year. Where it's
Yeah, I
like
know.
I look at their record, I look at some of the teams they've beat, and it's like, okay, this team should win a couple playoff games. And I don't know who they're gonna get matched up with just yet, depending on how these final week standings happen, with their division winning and who ends up being the 1 seed and all that fun stuff. But like holy shit, man. Like it just once again feels like it's going to be the same situation. So I guess we'll see what happens. Maybe not.
I get you.
Dak has been horrible, by the way.
He's not. He hasn't been good all year. He hasn't been very good all year.
I know, but he's been real bad in December,
Yeah.
and that's the things that you have to be. I mean, he has, I think, the highest interception to pass attempt ratio in the league right now. Like
Yeah,
that's
he's
you.
not been very good, but that I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a believer in Dallas either. All I know is that that division that seems like it was the Eagles to lose. Well, they're losing it. It seems like.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And I guess looking, I don't. Who do the Eagles play next week? Do you remember?
Um, I do not
Okay.
remember
Well, that's fine because I can literally just click one tab over and check it out. Um,
the
the
Giants.
Giants. So look, they should win that game, but they might not, but they should. So guess we'll see what happens. Cardinals Falcons, kind of a nothing burger of a game because both teams' rosters are completely depleted and they're playing for nothing. I mean, Ritter had a pretty decent game for a rookie trying to get his feet under him. So I'll give him that shout out. That's pretty much my only takeaway from it.
Yeah, terrible game. Bird shit game.
I like it. Bird Bowl.
Bird bird bowl. Bird shit.
Are there? There's more bird teams than there are cat teams, right? Yeah, but
I would
still,
guess so.
interesting. Division to keep your eye on would be bird teams versus cat teams, and how things pan out because Jaguars Lions are playing a lot better lately, and the Cardinals not playing so good. So,
And the Bengals. Don't forget about the Bengals.
oh, I definitely. Well, they've been playing good.
Yeah.
Man, they look crazy. It sucks that game got canceled because man, that Bills Bengals game was already
Oh, it
shaping up
was.
to be something magical.
Yep.
So I don't know if they're going to reschedule. It sounds like if they were to reschedule it, they'd literally have to shift the entirety of the NFL playoffs by a week, which is not unheard of. But I think it's more likely
Yeah, I
that
don't know what
they
you
just
do. I mean, honestly, John, I don't know what you do. I don't know what the solution is. But I don't know how you can just leave it as is because who would be the one seed in the AFC? You can't just give it to the Bills, right? I mean, if the Bengals
right.
were to win that, if the Bengals were going to beat the Bills that night, which it looked like very well could have happened. I mean, they were winning the game and moving the ball fine. I don't know, right? Like,
Well,
or do
do
you
they
give it to
call
the
that a
Chiefs?
draw, and then those teams have one less win on their record, and then KC wins, and then
Yeah,
they end
I
up
don't
being
know
the one
how
seed?
because we talked about how important the one seed is in the AFC for all three of those teams.
Right.
Whatever one of those teams is the one seed is going to be a heavy favorite to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, going through Buffalo, not easy. Going through
Go-
Arrowhead Stadium, not
Not
easy, right?
easy.
That Bengals home crowd, Who Day Nation, not easy to go there and play. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I think you have to play the game eventually. I just don't know how they do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the implications are huge. So
Huge,
I'm definitely
huge.
curious to see how they go about handling that in a way that no team feels snubbed because like you said, whoever does get that one seed, they have a way easier path to the Super Bowl than the other teams.
Yeah,
Um, moving on to Bears Lions, and look, I know that we're beating up on a horrible Bears team. I get it. But
this felt
man,
good.
oh, it just felt good because and I've been saying this all season. I'll pull up the stat, right? Lions have 17.5 sacks this year just from rookies. That's not including anybody else in the defense. That's just rookies, right? I mean, Houston, probably the best steal of this draft. I mean, bar none. Hutchinson is definitely living up to expectations, being the only rookie in NFL history to come away with 3 interceptions in his first season. I mean, Pascal's coming into his own. I know he's been hurt most of the season, and obviously Rodriguez is a stud of a linebacker. So it's just got, and who's not listed here is Kirby Joseph, who also has a few interceptions and some really great open field tackles and some sacks on his season as well. So it's just pretty awesome to see. It has you excited because, man, you think, okay, one more draft class with a little bit more of a defensive focus, and maybe we can actually, become a pretty competitive, serious defense. And with the way the offense has been playing, right, they don't need to be a number 5, number 10 defense in the league. They just got to be average. And I think with the way these rookies are shaping up, that average is definitely possible. And as long as the offense stays consistent, man, serious stuff next year.
Yeah, it just felt good. I don't even want to talk about next year, John, because we have so much to still talk about this year with the Lions, right? I mean, everything is still right there. Um, I'm not gonna write them off yet. I'm not gonna say that
For
Seattle is a
back to
guarantee.
rooting for the Rams, though, right? I mean, I thought I
Hey,
was done rooting for the Rams,
I'm
but
okay. I'm okay rooting for the Rams. The Rams in Seattle played a close one not too long ago. I listen. We're putting our hopes in Baker Mayfield. Um, we've seen him do some impressive things these last few weeks. Um, it's a home game for LA. I know that doesn't mean much for LA fans because there really isn't any. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not going to write the Lions off as
Oh,
we.
I have not written them off, and trust me, it will be absolutely electric, and you will be there, in person watching it happen if that 4 o'clock game ends up going to the Rams, and going into that game that whoever wins
Oh
this
yeah,
is getting that seed
yeah.
in the playoff. And
Because
look,
this game,
I got to shout out Green Bay too, man. Like, it's one thing to go from 1-6 to being a playoff team, but their odds were looking just as dismal. And Aaron Rodgers to go and kind of make this offense productive enough to get it done, and obviously their defense really keeping them in a lot of games. I mean,
John,
it's
we
pretty
said it
awesome.
all. We said it all year, it took me forever to say that the Packers are dead, but I did eventually even say it. There were weeks you were like, dude, how can you possibly defend them? I'm like, just because, wait. And then eventually I joined you and said they're dead. They're not dead, right? That receiving core that we kept talking about, if they just figure out their receiving core, they're going to be a dangerous team, right? This defense is young, but it's good. They have a good coach, right? They still have Aaron Rodgers. I mean, people were trying to say to play Jordan Love and just let this be a development year. Aaron Rodgers said, F that. F that, dude. He is back. The Packers are back. They're a dangerous team. They're a win and get in, and they play against a Lions team that they're pretty familiar with and that they don't like very much because we beat them earlier in the season. But I'll say this: it seems to me a little bit. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but it seems to me that the Packers kind of think that they have it. Right. I think they're totally underestimating the Lions. I think that they're banking on Seattle winning. The Lions won't be playing for as much. The Lions want to win this game badly no matter what. I'll say that much. They want to go in and spoil the season for them, even if they're not a win to get in situation, which I hope it is. Because yes, I'll be at that game and I'm hoping for it to be the most electric atmosphere possible. And if Seattle loses that 4 o'clock game, I am going to be feeling myself pretty good going to that game. And I'm gonna be repping Detroit as hard as I've ever repped the Lions. Um,
Yeah, I think either way, it's going to be an exciting game just because I think the Lions still feel like they got something to play for by spoiling the Packers' playoff hopes,
yeah,
regardless. So I think either way, it's going to be insane. And I agree. I think the Packers, like generally you're like, oh, we win these games at Lambeau when it matters and the season's on the line. But what they're counting out is that this is not the same old Lions. I think that this is a statement game, regardless of if the Lions have a shot to make the playoffs in it or not. So I can't wait. I'm pumped. I'm super excited that it got bumped into a primetime slot. Sunday
love
Night
it.
Football. I mean, couldn't ask for anything better than that. It's going to be
Best versus
absolutely electric.
best. I mean, it should be. It needs to be. I don't know. I feel like if the NFL is scripted, which it very well might be, Seattle loses because they want this game to be a win to get in. I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
I mean,
It's too good to be true, right?
look,
It couldn't possibly happen.
it's definitely the greatest conspiracy in NFL history that it's scripted so that all of these narratives play out in exactly the most exciting fashion that you could possibly imagine. I mean, probably best kept secret in the world if that's the case, considering how many moving parts there'd have to be in order to do that. But at the same time, I can't help but think if that Ram Seattle game is close, that somebody's going to be slipping the ref a couple $100 to make a bad PI call or something like that. So
Have you heard of the rumors of Matthew Stafford returning to beat Seattle to help us out?
speaking of conspiracies, that's another one I've seen is that Stafford come back just for this game. You owe Detroit this opportunity and we'll take care of the rest. Like that's hilarious. I don't think that's going to be the result, but Baker
People
Mayfield's
keep
playing
act
good football there.
Yeah,
So
dude, people keep talking about like, oh, Stafford will come back, he'll save us. Well, he didn't save us in Detroit. He'll probably come back and throw 4 picks and send us right back home. So I'd rather see Baker Mayfield go out there and try to win the thing. I don't trust Stafford. He never was very good for the Lions and their playoff odds. Okay, so let's just let Baker do his thing and hope Sean McVay figures out Pete Carroll and the Seattle defense, and let's ride with Baker.
yeah,
I've seen Baker
I'm
do it.
down with
I've
that.
seen Baker make a comeback, 97-yard drive against the Raiders. I've seen it. He could do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happens. Um, Jags Texans kind of a nothing game, obviously, but
Statement
because
though. Statement
yeah,
game.
I mean, they blew them out. That was crazy.
Yeah.
And like you said, man, like they are the AFC equivalent of the Lions right now. They are playing some really good football, especially offensively. They're doing a lot better. So curious to see. I mean, again, like the Titans really feel like they're up against it in their matchup next week. So I'm excited to see what happens there. Um, and Broncos almost getting it done against the Chiefs. That was crazy. And hey, congrats. Just in the nick of time. Russell Wilson got it done. He's officially thrown more touchdowns than he has bathrooms in his home.
Never
So
a doubt. Never a doubt for good old Russ. Never a doubt. We believed in him.
Hackett got
Listen,
fired since our last episode. I don't
Hackett
think.
Hackett was fired.
Yep.
I think it's sad. It sucks because I think that he ended up taking more responsibility than Russell Wilson, but that's just how it is in the NFL, right? The coach is usually going to fall before your franchise quarterback that you just paid $220 million.
Yeah, you can't get
Um,
out of all that dead cap, but you
you
can
can't
get
get
out of
out
the
of that.
coaching situation.
Yeah. So unfortunate for him. I don't want to completely blame him. Obviously, he didn't do a good enough job to remain as coach, but Russell Wilson's probably just as much to blame as Hackett is. I just don't think that relationship was meant to work. And sometimes that happens. So sucks to see. But they competed with the Chiefs, good team, right? This Broncos defense has kept them in a lot of games this year. Uh, Russell Wilson's still, bad interceptions. Still didn't play super well. Had a couple rushing scores though, so he got that part of himself back. It seems like. Um, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't look too much into this. I mean, I just think that it's a division game. Not surprised it was somewhat close. Um, Chiefs still won the game. So
And
I don't think the
Dolphins Pats came down to the wire to a
yeah.
good degree as well. And man, like this Dolphins team, which again, like it is hilarious because I think like as we're human at the end of the day, and we kind of forget how long an NFL season is. And you see a team with, 7 or 8 wins at the midpoint of the season, or 7 or 8 losses at the midpoint of the season. And you just assume, okay, this team's a playoff team. This team's not a playoff team. And we're very wrong about that on a couple teams. We're very wrong about that with the Packers. We were very wrong about that with the Lions. And another team that I might end up being very wrong about is this Dolphins team. Honestly, midpoint of the season, if you asked me if I thought the Dolphins were a Super Bowl favorite, I would have said yes. Their offense seemed unstoppable. Mike McDaniel seemed like the right coach for them. Their defense was getting the job done. Everything seemed to be going in their direction. And now their playoff hopes are completely on the line. And it's just, you got to love it, right? You got to love how, like, everybody acted like McDaniel was such a massive step up from Flores. And, looking at it from the outside and seeing how he started the season, I think everybody would agree that's what it felt like. Just for him to end up with what might end up being the exact same result or record or, placement within
Yeah.
their own division. So,
It's tough, John. It's tough. I mean, you come in to first year head coaching job and you have really a lot of well kept secrets, right? I mean, a lot of the stuff that he's helped develop and learn from Shanahan that the rest of the league hadn't seen yet, he displayed, and it was hard to stop, and they were hard to predict, hard to prepare for. But once the team starts to get a read on you and starts to kind of recognize your tendencies and what you want to call in certain situations, you can see, mix that with some injuries and some tougher opponents. This is what you get, right? So, I'm not going to bash McDaniel. I think he's done a great job in his first year. The
oh, he's
Dolphins
done a
have had a
phenomenal job.
rough path here with injuries, especially to your quarterback position. It's really hard for any team to have their quarterback get hurt and still compete in games. This Patriots team's not very good, I don't think. But they're going to win and get in next week, and
Right.
it's just like,
And now the Dolphins might be in a very similar predicament. So it's definitely interesting. And yeah, I mean, not a slight on McDaniel whatsoever. I think he is going to do a great job in the future coaching. And I think you make a great point that nobody really knows what to expect with him, for the first 8 weeks. And now they have a little bit more of a read.
yeah,
And what you mentioned with Tua, though, right? 3 concussions now in a season. You got to start bringing player safety into question, right? I mean, obviously, if the Dolphins end up winning and making the playoffs, I think he will be back in the playoffs. But there's a part of me that, for his own safety, like, do you want to advise against that? Right? 3 concussions in one season is a lot. It's something you rarely see out of any player, and we know that the more concussions you get, right, the exponentially increasing likelihood that you end up having some long-term negative side effects from that. So, curious to see how they handle it, especially with the scary situation going on with a different player. Obviously, his is a cardiovascular issue, not a brain issue. But regardless, like player safety matters a lot. Tua is very young and has a long career, hopefully ahead of him. So I'm curious to see how they handle that.
I am too. It's but as we've said, right, the NFL and it's a do it for me now business, right? It's a win now industry, and that pressure goes from the very top all the way down to players and staff. So, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him out there, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of boomer football fans that are like, "Oh, you're a multimillionaire to play this sport. Like injury is a part of it." And like, while there's some merit to that argument, I suppose, like these are still human beings at the end of the day, and if we can, not take years off of their life, I think that would be the preference. So, there's a human element that I think matters a lot there.
Yeah.
Giants blowing out the Colts and I believe clinching a playoff spot with this.
Yep.
Is there any way that they don't make the playoffs now, or are they for sure in now?
They're in.
Got it.
They
So
are in.
yeah,
This was their ticket in.
that's right. Because the Commanders choked it away, which I have choice words about that. If you guys saw my TikTok short posted today,
They I think you got to give them credit, right? In Dabble's first year, pretty hot start, and then a little bit of mixed emotions in the middle of the season. But they're in the playoffs. However you feel about him, however you feel about Daniel Jones, can't dispute the fact that they're a playoff team this year. And I think not many people thought that was going to be the case coming into the season. Sure as hell, not me or you. So give them credit, right? They're in, and all you can ask for is a chance to go into the playoffs and compete. So
yeah, absolutely. And I don't think they'll make it far. So you guys, everybody knows I've kind of been hating on this Giants team all year just because I don't think they have. I mean, similar feeling as they have with Dallas, but obviously Dallas is a lot better record. Like I just don't think they have the tools to get it done. Truly, at the end of the day, when it boils down to it, for different reasons, right? I think the Giants in general just don't play that great of football in three phases. I think they make a lot of mistakes. For the Cowboys, I think it's just I just don't think the offense is there, and I don't think the quarterback's there. I think the defense is totally holding up their end of the bargain. So, moving on to Saints Eagles, this feels good, and it sucks that frickin' Tampa beat the Panthers because otherwise the Saints would, believe it or not, still be in the playoff race. They are officially out. Buccaneers clinching the division, and somehow we're about to finish second in this division. That's crazy. I'll take it. It's been a dismal, pathetic season from the Saints, but it has been nice the past like 4 or 5 weeks seeing, I'd say, Saints playing defense the way that I've known them to play defense the past couple of years. And the offense looks better, but not great. Really curious to see about this entire Sean Payton situation. It sounds like worst case scenario, we get a first round draft pick out of him coming back to coach regardless. But personally, I'd much prefer to just see him come back to the Saints, right? The whole reason he left, as it turns out, was because him and Tom Brady were supposed to like go become part owners of the Dolphins and do that whole thing together. And that didn't work out. And then I think the Dolphins are the ones that got punished for it or whatever. So I'm not sure if Peyton wants to come back to the Saints. I don't know if he wants to see other options, but personally, I'd love to see him come back. So
I hate to crush your hope, but I don't think he's going back to the Saints, pal.
Who's a better option right now? I don't think Dallas is firing McCarthy.
They very well might if they don't win a playoff game.
That's very true. Colts are on their knees begging for Harbaugh to come, and I don't think that's going to happen. So maybe they're a viable option, but I think part of the reason why Peyton finds the Saints unattractive right now is their quarterback situation. And the Colts are, I think, the number one team that you can look at and say, wow, this team has an absolute mess of a quarterback situation. So,
I know. I just don't see him. I think he wants to get back into it, but I think he's going to wait for the perfect situation. He's not in a rush, I don't think. And I think that Dallas job is what he wants. And I don't know what's going to happen to Dallas in the playoffs, but if McCarthy is like, the first call, it's going to happen, Sean Payton, and that is a hard job to turn down. So I don't want to crush your dreams yet, because maybe you never know. But I think he left the Saints for more than just the Miami thing with Brady. I think there was more
I know
to
you
it.
say that you don't want to crush my dreams, but I think you actually pride yourself in crushing my dreams. So
Yeah, I mean, I
just let
love
me
crushing
have
them.
this
I
during
love
the off
crushing your
season.
dreams.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll let you continue to talk about it, and I love that you have this hope. I just don't know if he's coming back, man. I think he left for a reason, and
Yeah, to
I
become
just don't
part
think he's.
owner of an NFL
No, I
team.
think there's more. I think there's
To
more
coach
to
the
that.
GOAT.
I think there's more to that.
Yeah. That entire thing sounded like a crazy tall tale to begin with. So I guess it's kind of a good thing that it didn't work out, because Peyton and Tom Brady, with the way that offense was structured over at Miami, would have been terrifying. But anywho, also, for those listening, I apologize if you hear my cat meowing. I am doing my best to mute myself while Mark is talking so that you guys don't have to deal with that. But in case it picks up, she just likes me a lot. I don't know. Panthers Bucks. There's nothing other really to say here other than I'm confused how the Detroit Lions lost to this Panthers team. I get certain matchups just work out a certain way, and it was an incredibly frustrating game to watch with actually my girlfriend's family on Christmas Eve, while them sitting there saying the Lions stink and they're pissing away their playoff hopes, while they were just getting the ball rammed down their throats for the entire 60 minutes. But then this Panthers team comes out to, I'd say, a defense that's probably just as bad as the Lions defense. I mean, their entire defensive line is non-existent from injury. And yet somehow the Bucks win this game. And they do let up a lot of points. They do let up a lot of yards, but the Bucks win this game and clinch the division. And Tom Brady, once again,
Vintage Tom Brady
is in the playoffs. And
John, are we? It just feels like nobody, including us, is talking about the elephant in the room. Tom Brady and the Bucks have looked horrible for most of the season, but it's Tom Brady, and we've seen Tom Brady and the Bucks already win a Super Bowl. We've seen him do it 6 other times with New England and some New England teams that weren't very good. Wouldn't be considered great teams, but that dude at quarterback in the playoffs with a home game, couple things go their way. I mean, it's Tom Brady, and no one's talking about these guys as a legitimate threat. And the NFC isn't exactly loaded.
dude,
I don't
no,
know.
you're right. And that's the frustrating part, is what do we have to do to rid ourselves of the curse of Tom Brady at this point? Because this,
I mean,
this man he's a bachelor now. He has
dude.
nothing better to do than to keep playing
This is a
football.
man that had pretty much. I mean, the only thing that was ever going to distract him or take him away from football is gone. I mean,
Literally.
his marriage is gone, right? He's fully as committed to football as he has been in a long time. I feel like he has more to prove right now than he has had in a long time, which is crazy to think about. But the greatest of all time they'll find little things. They'll create things in their head to get themselves psychologically motivated. I mean, Michael Jordan would literally pretend that someone said shit about him so that he could go and score 60 on him. Kobe would do the same stuff. Like the greatest greats, the highest competitors we've ever seen in sports, and I put Tom Brady right in that argument. He's a psychopath, dude. He in his mind, he thinks people have written me off, and he wants to prove the world wrong again. That's what drives the success that he's had his entire career. This underdog, it will not leave him. And it's very scary. I sure as hell wouldn't want to go to Tampa and play them. I don't care who it is. And I sure as hell wouldn't want to have Tom Brady come into my home field after winning a playoff game the week prior.
No.
And, I don't know. To me, it just seems like not a lot of people are talking about it. And there's the Minnesota. Are they for real or not? Or is Philly going to figure it out? Or is this Dallas team good enough? Are the Lions hungry enough? Are the Packers this team to beat? I'm hearing a lot of stuff in the NFC. Not hearing a lot of stuff about Tom Brady.
And of course, because I agree with what you said about him being a competitor, him finding ways to win. All of these things are true. But there is some degree to which Tom Brady is also the luckiest MF on the planet. And to be in the sole division in all of the NFL this year, where 8-8 wins you the division.
Luck, or did he know when he picked to go there that division wasn't great?
He's 3 years ago. He was like, you know what?
I don't know, dude. I don't know how much of it's luck. I mean, luck only happens so often, and that dude is he seems to have it all figured out.
I think the football gods just blessed him. I think
I think he
they're just
is the
like,
football god. I think he is the football god.
who's football Satan then? Aaron Rodgers?
Russell Wilson.
I'll take that. And to play off of that, right? Like the reason why I mentioned Aaron Rodgers is because the media treats him like he's the worst quarterback, right? All the connotations you get about him is like, oh, he's selfish. Oh, he throws temper tantrums on the field when things are going his way. Everybody, he loves the camera, blah, blah, blah. They make him out to be this egomaniac. And then Tom Brady's just a golden child star all the time. Can do no wrong, is the perfect NFL player.
Yeah, listen, I'll get as I just said, like Tom Brady in the playoffs scares me, okay? But I'll jump to this and I'll say that I am completely horrified that if that game does become a win to get in game, Seattle does blow it against the Rams. I am not ready to be hurt that badly by Aaron Rodgers in person. I'm not.
That's his career, man. He has crushed the Lions' hopes and dreams so many times.
But John, it hasn't happened like this in a long time.
It's been like 5 or 6. Well, what? So what was the time where you had
I think it was 2013 when they beat us to.
Yeah, the questionable like face mask call or whatever that turned into a Hail Mary, and that I think.
But there was also a year. Was that the year that we just need to win to beat them and to get in? There was a year there was a win.
No, so we need to beat them to win the division in that situation. And so we were fighting for the division at that point.
And he stole it from us. That was at Ford Field, though. I just don't think I'm ready to go into his home, into Title Town, get the whole tour of the place. It's like, dude, you know what it is? It's literally bringing someone over to your new house, giving you a tour of the whole place, treating you like, like you're the king, and then just killing you. Like literally murdering you. That's what it feels like. It's like, hey, yeah, buddy, come on in. This is my new basement pool table. Look pour yourself a drink. Here, yeah, I got the nicest bourbon on the market. Boom, boom, boom. Next day, he's just a serial killer, kills me. No one ever hears from me again. That's what it feels like me going into
Damar's inviting you over to his house.
Literally, dude, I don't like
yours next meal.
Something feels off, dude. Because if that game does become a win to get in and we don't win, I'm gonna be a wreck. I'm gonna be sad because it's set up so perfectly for the best story ever.
Right.
And, I hated on the Lions all year, and now I'm a believer. I've become a believer. And just to get my heart ripped out, I don't want that to happen.
If Dan Campbell wins that game and does make the playoffs, I think coach of the year easily, right?
I think I think him and Doug Peterson are in the conversation.
Yeah. I think so too. I mean, Sirianni's got to be in there too, just because of how quickly that rebuild has happened. But man, everybody loves a good underdog story. So we'll see what happens. Okay, choice words about the Commanders, right? And I posted a short about this. So let me get this straight, right? You are 2-4 with Carson Wentz as a starter, right? Everybody's already saying you're dead this season.
Dude, not just 2-4. They were remember how bad we talked about them?
Dude, horrible.
They were the worst team in football. No doubt about it.
Not only that, but there is so much sometimes you got a good quarterback on a bad team. There is so much blame to put directly on Carson Wentz for why that team was playing poorly.
Do you remember how bad they lost to the shitty Lions? We're talking the old Lions. We're talking the first half of the season Lions. They got
held on to the ball to take sacks, tries to make superhero decisions, super reckless, just not the guy, period.
He's terrible.
So 2-4 as a starter. Then you get Taylor Heineke coming in off of a Carson Wentz injury. And Taylor Heineke earns the love and affection and appreciation of his teammates, helps turn the season around, has a lot of moxie, just has control of that team and goes 5-1-1 as a starter. And then you bench him. You bench him in a game you need to win to keep your playoff hopes alive.
It wasn't like it was like a nothing game. It was literally like you still control your destiny, win. No. Dude, okay, let me ask you this, John. We'll just throw analytics completely out of this. Let me ask you something. You're a receiver or you're a lineman, okay? You're a lineman for Washington Commanders, and there's a quarterback who's, top draft pick, nice guy, religious guy, nice family man. And when you win games, he offers to take you hunting, and he buys you whatever, a trip to go hunt ducks. Okay. And then the other guy that you might have to be blocking for is a younger guy, underdog, undrafted, kind of has a cool story. He buys Jordans for every single game that he wins in the color of the other team. He's now buying you Jordans for every game that you win. He's the other quarterback. Who would you pick?
Probably block.
Who would you want to play
Probably
quarterback?
block for the cool guy giving me shoes, and
Duck
not the guy that's
hunting, duck hunting, and reading the Bible together on after a game, or getting a new pair of Jordans and having a dude that slugs beers with you on the plane after a game. I mean, I don't know. I think I know who I would pick. I think most of the league would pick the same guy. For some odd reason, they gave up on him and they went back to their old ways.
Like
And
they
it
just
got
woke
them.
up one morning and they were literally like, "Yeah, playoff hopes. Who needs them? Like let's throw Wentz back in."
We win today and we have a good chance to make the playoffs. Let's start Carson Wentz. Said no one ever except for Ron Rivera.
Unreal. I just, and again, like this is a turd franchise, right? Like this is the franchise that has their poop pipes bursting overhead of their fans and like gates falling apart. And took me an hour to find my freaking seats, which apparently like one staff member in the entire place knew the staircase I needed to go to get to the upper level.
Dude, you're a loser franchise for those reasons, but also like they're actually on social media posting like clips of like you're welcome to the Packers. You know what I mean? Like for losing.
Like
what? Like we just needed to lose and the Packers get in. Like sorry we couldn't do it, but at least we helped Aaron Rodgers out. Like what?
And you can't even call it tanking. Like you're a
No,
7-win
it's just like,
team
what are you
still.
doing? Like you were in control of your situation. You're just like, well, we couldn't get it done, but at least Aaron Rodgers has a chance to now. Like, okay, and Browns are doing the same thing. Browns' actual social media tweeted like "You're welcome" to Aaron Rodgers for beating them, because the Browns are out, right? The Browns are out,
Right.
and they tweeted "You're welcome" to the Packers and Aaron Rodgers for beating Washington. Like, are you that big of a losing franchise? If Detroit
Totally.
ever did that, I would be so mad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, could you imagine like you're at Lambeau waiting for the game to start and you're scrolling on Twitter and you're like, Nate Sudfeld is starting today? What? You would be so confused. You would not even know what to do with yourself.
I would probably leave.
And that's literally what the Commanders just did this past week. Unreal. Another team who's just making me scratch my head a little bit, and not so much the team in general, but their quarterback. So let me get this straight, right? Derek Carr was like the franchise guy for this team through all of the trials and tribulations, right? Through changes in management, changes in head coaches,
Antonio Brown.
This, right, where he has had a bottom 20 defense literally his entire career. And yet he's like, you know what? I'm going to stay with this team. I'm going to be their guy. And I hope that, I get the same like reciprocity back. And you know what? I'm even going to ask them to go sign my best friend from college and make him the highest paid receiver in the NFL so that he and I can play football together again. And then not even 365 days after Derek Carr makes that decision, he is now like, all right, I'm going to head out. And I think like it's also because Vegas is treating him poorly. Don't get me wrong. I think they've been treating him poorly, but why was this the year that you decided you've had enough, Derek Carr? I don't now you just locked your best friend into a long-term deal with a shitty team and you're bailing on him. Like this dude could be keeping his Super Bowl hopes alive with the Packers right now.
I think that there is much more of a mutual separation right now between the Raiders and Carr than we're realizing. I think it was almost initiated by, they probably came to him and said, listen, we're going to start the other guy. And I think he probably took that as, as a competitor, he was like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm your guy. What do you mean? And they were like, no, we're going to start this other guy. We're going to go with Jared Stidham. And he probably was like, okay, well, I'm done. This is the final straw. I think that's more of what probably happened. And then obviously, as you saw, you unfollowed them on social media. He wasn't at the game. It's become kind of a shit show in Vegas because of it. I
I'm
think it's
definitely
more
not
mutual.
I'm not putting it all on Carr by any means. I think that
Yeah.
there's a lot. And look, the part that confuses me is how you do stick with this team. It gives me similar vibes as Baker, but even worse because yeah, like Baker stuck with the crummy Browns team and they kind of stabbed him in the back. Carr has literally been like putting his life on the line for the freaking Raiders since 2014 through some of the worst draft picks ever, through
To the
crazy
John
coaching.
Gruden situation,
I mean,
which
the
was
the amount of
hard.
adversity that this dude has overcome with this organization and has still won a pretty decent amount of games. It's just crazy. So
It
best of
sucks.
luck to him for wherever he goes next. Because honestly, I don't think he's a bad quarterback, and I actually think that he is a decent defense away from being considered a good quarterback. It just sucks
Well,
for Devontae. It sucks. A lot of that situation sucks. So,
sounds like he could probably end up being a Panther, Saint, or Colt, if I had to guess.
and as a Saints fan,
Or who knows, maybe a Jet.
maybe a dude. Actually, I think that's the right fit. I think he would be a great Jet. Um, because I think that Salah's a very stable ship. I think that their management is very stable. I think that they're calm and calculated with their drafting decisions as of the past couple of years. And the only thing that team's very good defensively, pretty decent offensively, and the only thing they're really missing is a
Quarterback.
competent, stable quarterback with experience. So, and as a Saints fan, I'd probably take him definitely over Dalton and probably over Jameis too. So
Yeah, you'd be stupid not to try to take him in. I mean, if you're any team that needs a quarterback, you'd be pretty stupid not to try to get him.
I agree.
I think he's better than any rookie you're going to find on the market. You don't have to waste the time to develop him. I think he's a good guy. He's a good leader. I think he's shown that. He's been through worse than probably anything your franchise is going to put him through. I mean, he went through
Now,
John
does
Gruden, Antonio
Devontae ask
Brown.
for a trade or try to get out of the contract potentially?
I don't know, dude. That sucks if you're Devontae. Because
Sucks so much.
although I'll say this, dude, talk about a guy who has a total awful situation happen to him and goes out and has the game that he had. I mean, he went nuts. 3
Well, I think
tugs
it's
with
just
a
because he's a
backup quarterback.
competitor and a God gifted, talented athlete. And
I think so, yeah.
I think
Against a good
regardless of
defense
who's
too,
throwing
dude.
the rock his way, that's the case. So, and by the way, with that incredible performance, they still lost the game. And man, like,
Blew another 14 plus point lead, dude. Broke the NFL
are
record for most in
are
a
at least for me right now in this moment, I think the 49ers are my NFC Super Bowl favorite. I like who's beating this team? Like even with a third string quarterback, like who in the NFC can truly beat this team? They have everything they need on defense and their offense seemed to have not missed a single beat going down to their third string quarterback. It's just they look so damn good. They looked so good late in the season every season and they're fun to
yeah.
watch. So
They're gonna be tough to beat. They're gonna be tough to beat, but I do think that they will be beat. I just don't know by who.
guess we'll
I just
find
don't.
out.
Yeah.
Um, Seahawks Jets. This was obviously disheartening to watch as a Lions fan. The Jets didn't feel in it at any point during this game, and just watching that go south when you really, really needed the Seahawks to lose sucked. Because I thought the Jets had way better odds to beat the Seahawks than the Rams do, but that's what we're banking on. But man, what a story that this team might make the playoffs. Like everybody thought they were going to be one of the worst teams in the league, including myself this season, missing Russ and kind of going into what everybody thought was a rebuild. So hats off to them. They dominated the Jets, and the Jets are not a bad team by any means. So
It's a testament of Pete Carroll's coaching. It's a testament of Geno Smith and how he's prepared his entire league or his entire time in the league, which is a long time for this moment. Um, he's risen to the occasion, and you have to give that team credit, man. Like that is not a team. You're right that anybody thought would be in the situation they're in, and they win one more game and they're a playoff team. Let's hope to God they're not, though.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and Packers showing the most confidence that they've shown all season. I mean, what a redemption for them to go play this team week one and just get absolutely dominated and to come back towards, pretty much the end of the season and just crush them in all three phases. the Packers, in my opinion, this was their best performance of the season. I think that they
Yeah.
really made it happen.
How
So
about obviously the offense function, but I think one matchup that stood out this week and in this game was Jared Alexander against Justin Jefferson. Right in the first game, he had some issues staying with him. Jefferson had a pretty big game, but this time, I mean, I think he held him to under, I think 2 or 3 catches,
it was like
which is
less than 40 yards. He locked his
it's just
ass
tough.
down.
And
Yeah.
he hit the gritty on him after breaking up one of the passes. I just love the competition between those guys and a rivalry. A team you play twice a year, with two of the very best at their position going at it. It's pretty awesome to see. And a little trash talk never hurt anybody. And this time the Packers got the last laugh. And who knows? Maybe these teams see each other again here in a few weeks.
Yeah. Also hoping that doesn't happen. But, I think it'd be way cooler for the Lions to bump into them, but we'll see what happens. Rams got dunked on by the Chargers, but I think that's kind of what I was expecting. The Chargers are objectively a better team, and they're finally hitting their stride here. Happy to see them for sure making the playoffs after what happened to them last season. And, hoping they go on a run, right? I don't know who they're going to get matched up with, but, if it's the Ravens, for example, which it won't be, in the first week, but could be later. That team, man, the way that they played, I don't know if you watched that game, Mark.
Yeah, I saw
Like
it.
every single Ravens loss this season has kind of had a similar tune to it, where like they come out crushing it in the first half, and the second half, it's like their offense just completely forgets how to score points. And
They
I don't
play a
know,
pretty consistent form of offense, John, and it either clicks and no one can stop it, or a team figures it out and makes adjustments, and then they don't have a second option of what to do offensively. They
right?
either are going to ground and pound you until the game's over and they're going to win, and they're going to kick field goals and play good defense and just hope that they have more points than you, or they're going to have a team figure them out and then they don't have an answer. They're not going to throw the ball around. They're not going to pick you apart in the secondary. They're just not going to do it. So you play a team that stops the run and the Ravens will struggle. Or if you get on top of the Ravens early, they'll struggle. Doesn't matter if Lamar's there, doesn't matter if it's Huntley. They just don't have the system right now and the quarterback right now, no matter who's playing quarterback for them on their roster, to come from behind and win, or to have to win a game in other ways besides just running the ball over and over
Yep.
again.
And like the 49ers get away with that type of football.
Right.
But here's the two big differences. Is one, they're still good for scoring a pretty copious amount of points depending on who they're playing. And two, their defense is rock solid. And the Ravens, I don't think their defense is like clutch like that. Like the Steelers are not a very good team. And for
The
them to
49ers have a better play action game as well.
much better,
Yeah.
significantly better. That's a really important point. So it was rough, man. Like I just and the fact that like the Steelers are one game away from Tomlin once again having a winning season is crazy too. So
Don't count these Chargers out, John.
I'm not
I've
counting the
I've said
Chargers
that a
out
few
whatsoever.
times. They're my team in the AFC that listen, you Bills, Bengals, and Chiefs have been the talk of the AFC. Well, mostly just Chiefs and Bills all year, but then the Bengals have snuck their way into that conversation. The Chargers are like that team that's left out of the group, right? They're that fourth team that no one's really talking about them in the AFC. They're a dangerous, dangerous matchup for
And
anyone.
they're healthy at the right time, and you
Perfect.
cannot.
Boza coming back. They're stacked. Derwin James, you have Boza, you have Khalil Mack. You have Kenneth Murray at linebacker. You have Asante Samuel Jr. in the secondary. And then you go to the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Justin Herbert has a rocket arm. He can make just about any throw. You got Mike Williams,
Yeah,
who's a
and you
matchup
got
nightmare.
Eckler,
Keenan
Williams,
Allen,
Allen. It's a good ass team, man.
and a
So
good O line too. I mean, people forget about that. Like the O line's been improved. Yeah, man. I don't know. If that Chargers defense continues to get better, the offense is good enough to beat anybody. I mean, that could be the Super Bowl team coming out of the AFC.
totally. So usually we kind of go down the list here. And I guess to some degree we can do that. But I actually think because it's the last week of the season, it'd be more fun to just plug our picks into the playoff calculator and kind of see how that looks.
I'm
Down for it?
down.
Let's do
Yeah.
it. All right. So first matchup we got KC Raiders. Raiders have nothing to play for, are missing their starting quarterback. I think Casey, comes home with the win for that one. How about you?
Agreed.
Titans, Jags. I'm gonna go Jags here, which would get
I'm also
them
gonna go Jags.
the division. Got Ravens, Bengals, and look, the way the Ravens have been playing the past few weeks, I don't know if they're going to get Lamar back this week or not, but I just think Bengals are going to be the better team. All they need to do is not even be the better team. They just need to be the better second half team, and they'll pull away with it. So,
yeah, I'm gonna go with Cincinnati as well.
Tampa Falcons, like at least having a winning record and winning the division's respectable. So I'm gonna go Tampa.
I'm not so sure on that game, John, because the Bucks are playing for nothing at this point now. And the Falcons, for some odd reason, compete with them. I'm gonna pick Tampa, but would not be surprised if the Falcons steal one there.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be resting some guys on the Tampa Bay side of things, but I still think they're probably the better team, and the Falcons have equally as little to play for right now. Pats, Bills. I think
Bills.
because of the fact that the Bills have absolutely dominated the Pats in the past like 3 or 4 matchups, then I'm going Bills.
Yeah, I think it's the Bills with everything that they're gonna be playing for as well. They're obviously gonna be playing for their guy, Damar. They're gonna want to win this one for him. It's a no-brainer, and I just think that, like you said, they match up with the Bills, and they just have their number the last few times. But you give an already really really good team an extra sense of motivation, like playing for one of your guys that is fighting for his life. As he was trying to battle for you guys. You mix that. That's a hard team to beat, man. That's a hard team to beat.
Yeah, I agree. Vikings, Bears. I'm going to go Vikings just because it's kind of a throwaway game for both teams, and the Bears looked absolutely horrible last week. Fields looked banged up too. I hope. I mean, it's the end of the season for him,
Dude,
so
they're
maybe
so banged. The Bears are so banged up.
yeah, and I
I don't
feel
even.
bummed because like I genuinely hope that they come back next year and are a little more competitive because I think Fields is fun to watch and he kind of gives that team a little bit of a spark. So we'll see what happens there. Colts, Texans. That is a garbage matchup for the ages.
Texans, I think.
I'm going
I
to take
think they'll play
Texans
with
too.
more. I think they'll play with more than the Colts.
I agree.
And I'm pretty sure the Colts are going to be starting Sam Ellinger.
I think you're right, actually, because Foles, we didn't even talk about that.
Do they go back to Matt Ryan?
No. I think they'll play. I think they'll play Ellinger, but like that, Kayvon doing that whole snow angel thing was like people are like, oh, we didn't see it. It's like this dude is dying literally right next to you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he didn't know that he was hurt, but I don't know. What I'm not going to look too much into it. I mean, if you sack the quarterback, you do a celebration. I don't think he's really in that moment thinking about, oh, is the guy behind me okay? I don't
Yeah,
think
I'm
he's.
just surprised the offensive line didn't totally stomp on his ass while he was doing that for as long as he did. That's I mean,
Yeah,
guess
I mean,
how
I
much of a
guess, but
connection
maybe.
do you have with Nick Foles, your quarterback? I'm not sure, but still, that would really get under my skin as a lineman, no matter who I was blocking for. So
Yeah, I guess. And for Jeff Saturday to say that, I mean, he's a Hall of Fame lineman. So I don't know. It's tough to ask the same thing from
yeah,
guys that
I
are.
mean, him advocating that they try to kick the shit out of Thibodeau, I think was maybe a step too far
Yeah, I
as
mean,
the
it,
head
it is
coach.
like, do you want them to purposely get a 15-hour penalty? Like, I don't know, as a coach, what you want them to do there. It's
Hey, good job doing
yeah,
not only letting up a sack for the quarterback, but also causing us an additional
yeah.
15.
It's like, what do you want me to do, coach? You're gonna yell at me if I get a team a personal foul. And then you're also gonna yell at me if I let this guy just do a dance. Like, I don't know. I think it's been blown out of proportion. Whatever. It was a celebration. He sacked the quarterback. We see it all the time. Whatever. I don't think it was as bad as people are saying it was.
Yeah. Jets Dolphins. So again, must win game for the Dolphins if they want to keep the playoff dreams alive. I think
third string quarterback probably.
I still think they're the better team though. So, man, that's tough.
I'm gonna pick the Jets, John. You can leave it for the playoff calculator.
Yeah, I'm just
How
curious what that. So that does take them out of the playoff and put Pittsburgh in, which is interesting.
which is crazy if Pittsburgh gets in.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave this Jets one on just to see what happens there.
Because I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the Dolphins are playing a third string quarterback. The Jets have a good defense. I know the Jets aren't playing for anything now, but I mean, I don't know.
No, I think it could definitely go both ways. I mean, home game advantage, which is big, but yeah, it's definitely not a shoe-in. Panthers, Saints, neither of these teams are playing for anything. I'm just going to take Saints.
So, I'm going to pick the Panthers, but you can leave it.
It doesn't affect playoff anything anyways. I'm going to pick Steelers because they got something to play for and the Browns don't.
Maybe. I think the Browns beat them.
You think they're the better team? Really?
I think the Browns' defense against Kenny Pickett.
Divisional matchup at Steelers. And you're taking.
I know. I think that the Browns. I mean, Deshaun Watson. They're starting to get a little bit of rhythm, and I don't trust that Steelers offense. That Steelers offense is very limited.
Sure. Pickett though Pickett to Pickens has been a pretty solid combo for them.
Yeah, they're starting to get it together a little bit, but I mean, they're so limited. They really are.
They've improved through the season, though, quite a lot, and they're relying a lot on rookies. So
the fact that they're even in the conversation is
crazy.
Unbelievable job by Mike Tomlin.
Absolutely crazy. I mean, it's a huge testament to what kind of coach Tomlin is. Like,
yeah,
you got to respect the dude. He is a great, great, great coach. Giants versus Philly.
A tough one. Without Jalen Hurts,
but the Giants are not affecting their seeding outcome. Well, it does affect Philly,
big time.
So I'm going to go Philly.
I'll also go Philly, but I'm not entirely confident in them. I'm really not.
Guess we'll see. I think Dallas stomps the Commanders, and they deserve it.
Yeah, I think Dallas blows them out.
I think Chargers stomp the Broncos, and they deserve it.
I agree there.
I think San Fran stomps the Cardinals, and they deserve it.
I agree there. San Francisco's not out of the 1 seed, by the way. If they win that game and Philly loses, right?
Yep. If they win that game, Philly loses, because it doesn't even matter what the Cowboys do in that situation. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what scares me.
How about that?
We gotta pick the Rams.
Yeah, I'm picking Rams just because.
I have to pick the Rams. I don't think it's impossible. The Rams blew out the Broncos on Christmas Day. We saw that. We saw what they're capable of doing. They looked really good. And that was a good Broncos defense. Let's not forget that.
One of the better defenses in the league that has not let up anything close to 50 points an entire season.
I'm telling you, dude. McVay's a good coach. It's a divisional game. They played close the first time these two teams played. I'm not gonna. It scares me that it's at Seattle.
That's the part that scares me the most about it. I would actually feel pretty confident if it wasn't at Seattle. Not so much because LA has a crazy home crowd or anything, just because it's not at Seattle. Really quick, any Lions fan, because I've heard a couple say shit like this, any Lions fan that's upset about us rooting for the Rams for draft pick reasons, like, you're a turd and you have this entire thing backwards. Yes, the Rams losing to have a high draft pick for the Lions is awesome. But if their winning is contingent on whether or not the Lions have an opportunity to make the playoffs, what are you talking about? Like, I wouldn't be mentioning it if I didn't see actual tweets.
It is a win-win, John. It is a win-win. I mean, if Seattle wins, we get a better draft pick.
Oh, stop it.
But, I mean,
stop it.
Obviously, it's not that big of a win.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're picking Rams, and then I think we're picking the Lions to rock with Green Bay. As scary as that sounds,
So
because
the
that is a hard
two,
game.
and don't be wrong, like all these other matchups have situations revolving around seeding, but it seems like the two big games here that matter a lot as far as teams actually getting in are the Dolphins and Jets and Green Bay and Lions. So like if you
And the
switch,
Steelers.
right? Well, the Steelers I think will beat the Browns, but I guess we're not on the same page
I'm
there.
not sold on that, John.
That's fine. That's fine. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm just gonna say Jets win, Lions win. This is what you're looking at playoff wise. You got Buffalo at the second seed, assuming that they don't have an opportunity to rematch the Bengals, which is, or as Mark likes to say, the Bengals. I saw some dudes on TikTok making fun of you for that. I don't know if you noticed those comments.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, Bengals, like Bengals. You know,
Banglays.
yeah. The TikTok typing automatically put it as like Bangles. So I was taking some shit. Whatever, dude. Like, if that's what you're on the internet trolling people to do, you're probably a loser.
I think both of us, unfortunately, have pretty like prominent like Midwestern. Like, I don't even know if you want to call it an accent. I don't think it's really an accent. It's just like kind of we say some words wrong. It's
You say
especially
some
prominent.
teams wrong. You say Falcons, which I've always thought was interesting.
Falcons. Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
you're right.
I've always said Falcons. But, I don't know. People can argue about it all they want. Whatever. You know what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the way people talk. All you people from the South, right? You have your own weird way that you say a bunch of things. Um, People from California sound like a bunch of surfers all the time. People from the East Coast sound like they're mad most of the time. Like, just happens. I don't know.
Happens. John,
Leave Mark alone.
yeah, quit bullying
TikTok.
me, guys, on my TikTok. Um, I kind of really want the Eagles to lose because I don't want to play the 49ers in the first round. I'd
And you're
much
playing
rather that.
Dallas.
I'd much rather that.
I'd much rather that too. Would feel like redemption from the playoff matchup like a decade ago that still crushed my soul. Um, and also, I think they're much more beatable, right? I think if our defense plays just marginally better against Dallas's offense that we did last time we matched up, we win that game.
Dude,
So,
if we play the 49ers, they're going to rush for 400 yards against us.
yeah.
You
And
know,
that's not an
like
understatement.
that's not good.
Yeah. Probably the only team in the entire NFC that uses play action better than the Lions do. And
That's
this
the
is
only
because,
team in the NFC that I'm legitimately scared of.
yeah,
That's the only
I
team I would
legitimately
say that
think
the
we could
Lions
beat.
have no chance.
Yeah, I think we could beat literally every other team. I don't disagree with you, Mark. I really don't. Hmm. Now, can the Eagles win? And is there any other situation? No, I don't think
No,
so.
because no,
Yeah, it literally
the
just
Eagles
boils down.
clinch the top seed if they win.
Yeah. So on this
But
side of things,
If
right?
the Giants win, John, if the Giants win, does it change their seed?
No,
Not at all.
no, they have nothing to play for necessarily. It doesn't change their seeding because they're not going to win the division.
Hmm,
So
that's not
very
good.
interesting. Very interesting. All right, I think that wraps it up for this episode. We solid hour and a half here. And covered quite a bit. It will be really exciting because next week when we meet, not only do I believe we'll have another guest that is in the league, but also it will be, end of week 18. There'll be a lot to recap, and there will be looking forward to the playoffs after that, which is very
Yeah.
exciting.
If
So,
if you don't follow us on social media, okay, TikTok, Instagram,
it's
Twitter,
right there.
subscribe to our YouTube. Right now is a very good time to do that because it's just gonna pick up more and more as we get into the playoffs. National championships coming up. I mean, we have a lot of stuff coming here. We're going to be posting more on YouTube with shorts, which if you don't know what that is, it's essentially like TikTok, but on YouTube. I just found out what that was from John. I'm a boomer, I guess.
Yeah, but like you should watch the shorts over the TikToks because they pay YouTubers more to do that. So,
Yeah, but whatever whatever, just watch it on. There's going to be a lot of content coming out. and we are excited about that. And this is probably like the best time of year for football if you're a fan of any team. And we're gonna love talking about everything. Expect some cool content coming from me as I'm in Green Bay Friday through Sunday. Getting a tour of the facility and stuff. I'm hoping to video that, take some pictures. Um, you know, enemy in enemy territory, John. They might not even. They're sure they should let me in.
What's the fit gonna be, by the way?
The
Like
fit,
you got like a Hutchinson jersey. Like what's going
I
on? Like,
don't have a Hutchinson jersey. I think I'm gonna wear some Detroit gear for sure. Um, I think I'm just gonna blend in and wear some Pistons stuff, and it'll be known that I'm from Detroit. Um, but I want to blend in and see if I can sabotage them in any way possible.
oh, sabotage. Got it.
Yeah,
You should
I mean, I'll
go
be in the.
replace their grass field with a turf field. Like prank them.
Yeah, that'd be smart. I'll
Like
be in their
you're
locker
getting there a
room.
couple days in advance. Like you could, I don't know, big enough of a team, you can pull it off.
Yeah, I'll be in their locker room. So, who knows if I get creative enough. If I can give the Lions any upper hand at all. I don't know if that's going to be allowed. I'm sure they'll be monitored pretty closely, but I don't know. I'm going to enjoy my time there in Titletown, and the entire time I'm just going to be thinking about how cool it's going to be to see that place turn into a really sad town instead of a happy town.
Yeah, I think it's going to be electric regardless of the Rams Seattle outcome. So hope you have a blast there. Definitely send updates, and as Mark said, plenty of more tidbit entertaining content to come along all of this long form stuff that we are doing as well. So we appreciate everybody listening and everybody that's been with us on this regular season journey. The regular season will be over when we see you next week. So it's been cool. We've seen nothing but growth. We've had some awesome guests on. I'm going to consider this first regular season with the Practice Squad podcast a smashing success, and we are looking forward to seeing what's to come. So thanks again for everybody listening, and we will see you guys next week. Peace.
Go Lions.